Champions from the Demon Swans faction in Raid Shadow Legends are from the deepest parts of the pits of hell, and they bring one thing to the fight: HP burn and fire. Whether they are legendaries or they are epics, they are similar, but there is one champion that stands out, and he brings freeze to the battle, and that is Achak the Wendarin. In this video, I'm going to be telling you where I use this champion. You see my builds and masteries, and also how you can gear this champion to be useful in your teams. Now let's take a second to appreciate this champion design. This is one of the strangest looking champion. It's kind of faceless. It does have a face, but it's all covered with this weird thing. It's not hair or whatever. It's just strange looking. He's kind of skinny. Look at his hands. But this is not feathers, so he can't really fly. It looks like a cloak or something that he's wearing on his entire head and shoulder. That's one hell of a build. But he does look really, really scary. And yes, you should be scared of him. So the question is, how does a demon get powers to place freeze? We'll leave that up to Layla, Fox, and others to tell us the story, how he got his freeze abilities. So on his A1 ability, he does attack one enemy, has a 30% chance of decreasing the duration of a random buff on the target. I mean, if the target is under HP burn debuffs. So most target is attacking will already be under HP burn, and when he goes in with this A1, he will decrease the duration of a random buff. So if the enemy have already buffed themselves with maybe increased attack or increased defense, he will reduce the duration by 1. This is not really a useful skill, but I'm most interested in this part of the skill that has a 30% chance of decreasing the target storm meter by 15%. You know, it's always useful when you can just make your enemies delay their turn. Even if it's by 15%, it really helps. If they're under freeze, that's when this will also apply. So both conditions apply. One is if there's HP burn, he will decrease their buff by 1 turn. But if they're under freeze, he will decrease their turn meter by 15%. It's conditional, both 30%. It can be booked up to 40 and 50%. So it's a 50% chance of happening. But tell you the truth, it usually happens. On the A2, which is just a normal skill, I don't like this skill because it just places for 1 turn. So he places block debuffs buff on all allies for 1 turn. So he helps your team not take any stun, freezes, decrease defense and all that. But the problem is this is just for 1 turn, and you all know by the time he places it and then your allies take turn, it just falls off. So I don't see why this is for 1 turn. It should be for 2 turns. But I guess he has a lot of abilities already going for him. That's why they had to make this one 1 turn. But the strength that he places applies for 2 turns. So his main ability, this is the bread and butter of his entire kit. He attacks all enemies, has a 70% chance of placing freeze debuff for 1 turn on enemies whose attack is higher than their defense. I've really not seen a champion in Raid Shadow Legends that places freeze debuff for 2 turns. The same thing applies for stun. It's usually for 1 turn because you don't want to lock them out forever. So just know that there's no way to make this land for 2 turns, else it will just be broken. Has a 30% chance of placing HP burn debuff for 1 turn on enemies whose defense is equal to or higher than their attack. So this is conditional. If your enemies have a higher attack than their defense, he will freeze them. That means all those people that can do a lot of damage. I'm talking about nukers especially, or if you're going against the spider, those spiderlings can do a lot of damage, but their defense is low. So for tanks that have a lot of defense, right, and they're not going to do a lot of damage to you, he just places HP burn on them because he wants them HP burn to burn them and bring them down. So that's kind of smart thinking on his part. But most of the time, those tanks, you don't even want them to take a turn. You want to also freeze them. So this condition that is applying to him, it's not really useful all the time. So you have to always fight against enemies who have increased attack or higher attack than their defense if he wants the freeze to place. So you can't really pick and choose which one you should apply. That's what I'm saying. So if you bring this champion to the Doom Tower, He's sometimes freezes one champion, so sometimes he doesn't freeze the other ones because their defense is obviously higher than their attack. So it's kind of conditional, but it can be booked up to 10, that's over 90% chance of placing that freeze. So there's a 10% chance it will not land. But the cool part about this freeze is on a 3-turn cooldown. You know, you can book it up to, decrease the cooldown, and it will be on a 3-turn cooldown. I would advise you book this champion if you will use him in any content in the game, especially for the spider, because you want him coming back to this ability. Remember, the freeze is for 1 turn. So by the time they lose a turn and you take a turn and then they come up again, it's already your turn to freeze them again. So you'll see it in progress when we finally go for the fight. Now on the passive, which helps the freeze, this is where it really helps a lot. Heals all allies by 5% of their max HP every time an enemy under HP burn debuff gets a turn. So I do freeze them and I do place HP burn. So this also applies. He places HP burn, but we always want that freeze to land instead of the HP burn. So he heals an entire, team. With him on the team, everybody is always full HP. That's what I've seen. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 10% every time an enemy under freeze debuff gets a turn. So most of the time, those enemies have both freeze and HP burn on them, and these two passive applies. He heals and turn meter also boosts by 10%. So you see it in action. It will happen, both freeze and HP burn, and you'll be enjoying these two abilities or passives from Achak. So I guess you could call him a healer, but somebody who places freeze and then is healing the entire team, it's quite unseen. It's kind of strange. So that's what he has for his passive. And for his aura, he has increased defense in all battles by 25%. So it's not only Doom Tower or it's not only Arena, it's everywhere. You can use this aura as a lead if you are low on defense, especially in the dungeons where he shines a lot. So let's see how I built this champion. We've seen his kits. I'll go to my Achak build right here, and by just checking out his skill, you can already tell this champion is placing a lot of freeze and HP burn. That means he will need accuracy. That's the number one thing I can think of. You need this champion to have high accuracy, depending on the dungeon level or the enemies you are fighting against, of course. So I had him in 2-piece perception sets, and since he's placing HP burn and doing all that, I want him to survive long enough to keep everybody else alive. So I did put him in these other sets. What you find in my build, if I go through all of them, is I was looking for speed on all the substats. Speed here, speed here, speed, a little bit of speed here, speed here. You can see I was getting speed in every substat. Now if you do not have enough speed, you might have to go 2 perception and 2 speed sets. So if you're asking yourself which one is the ideal set for this champion, you can place him in 3-piece speed sets. That will also work fine. All you need him to go is take a turn and come back to his abilities fast enough. So something above 200 speed will be fine depending on your dungeon level. I have him in over 230 speed, I think. Now for accuracy, because I do have perception sets giving me enough accuracy I did not need to go accuracy on the banner. But if you're not going full perception sets, you might need to put your accuracy banner over here. I went HP, defense, and HP. Remember, I didn't want him to do any damage. He's just there to heal my team, fill my turn meter, freeze the enemies, place HP burn, decrease their turn meter. A lot of things he's doing. So none of these things I mentioned requires him to have 100% crit damage, or 100% crit rate, or do a lot of attack or damage to them. Despite his skills being based on attack, I didn't build him in any attack or even 100% crit damage. So that's how I build him. I'm sure somebody might need to build him in 100% crit and see what he can do, but if I'm trying to get this amount of accuracy and this amount of speed, it's kind of hard to squeeze in crit rate and crit damage into this type of champions build. So that's why I have him like this. For the masteries, I went defense 3 and accuracy, and support 3. So I didn't want him to do damage. Like I said, he's just there to support the entire team. Now if you go down here, you can see me going for fearsome presence, which increases the chance of him placing freeze. Remember, the freeze is in a 90% chance of landing, right? because if you book it. So this gives him an extra 5%, which is 95% chance of placing that freeze. So people do say this one also helps, which is what? Increases the chance of placing debuff on skills, but it cannot, increase the chance of placing freeze. So it's still 95%. Me selecting this does not mean it will increase the chance of placing freeze, no. So just bear that in mind. This is not the ideal one, but this does help. So I went this way: accuracy, accurate, turn meter boosting, of course. And whenever he hits the enemies, he has a 30% chance of extending the duration of any buff cast. So he can increase the duration of his HP bond that is casting. Any debuff cast, right? Debuff, yes. The HP bond can be increased when he is landing it. This will decrease the turn meter when he hits them for the first time. So that's how I went. I went with this skill that has a chance of decreasing the cooldown of one of his skills because I want that freeze to come back up again. So sometimes it does happen that he resets his cooldown of his freeze ability and takes a turn again and freeze them again. So that's an awesome one. This is my masteries. You can do your masteries as you wish, but I feel like this one is important for that freeze to go from 90% to 95%. 5% is a huge difference in the battle. So that's how I have my Achak. I do have him fully booked because I found this champion to be a very, very useful champion in my teams, and I booked him a long time, but I slept on him. I didn't know where to use him because I didn't have the right gear on him. I didn't have the right speed and the right accuracy on him. So he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do in my team. So where do we use this champion right now? Let's go and check his out for dungeons. First of all, he shines number 1 spot is the Spider. Now, I've been running Spider 20 for a long time with my Cold Heart, with my, what do you call this champion now? Scyl the Drake to stun. She's in a stun set, so she usually stuns the entire wave. Sometimes 1 or 2 Spiderlings will not be stunned, right? So that's how I was able to be playing Spider 20. But with the help of this new item that is added to the game that lets us run 2 runs, I forget what it's called, for each dungeon run. Super raids, yes, that's the name. I was still running Spider 20 for events, so I was losing out on a lot of silver and a lot of 6-star spider artifacts, what do you call them, amulets, ring and banners. I didn't have a lot of 6 stars. I was still rocking 5 stars. Even the 6 stars I have are all maybe rare, not few epics, not a lot of legendaries. I found it's time for me to push my spider team to 18 or 20. And this is where Achak the Wendarin came in. I dusted him out of the vault where I placed him, put some new gear that I farmed up on him, moved everything to 16, and then I put it in my team. All I needed to do is make him freeze the entire spiderlings, and then whoever comes in to do damage to the boss, it doesn't really matter. You don't understand? So it's the same thing like Spider 20, where you're just trying to freeze the waves and make sure the boss doesn't take too much turns or eats the spiderlings up too much. Sure, it's fine if the boss takes 1 turn and then eats the spiderling, but you don't want him to do it over and over again. So that's where you need turn meter control for Spider. You already know that. But I'm saying for Achak to be in this team, he's just there to control the spiderlings. So let's stop talking and put into the test. So remember, this team is not always have to be exactly like this. All you need, even Amiga can replace Allure, and any other HP Bond champion can replace Tyrant. It doesn't have to be a legendary. Of course, your Cold Heart is just there to make it faster. So let's see how he functions in this team. You can see his negative affinity, right? This is a Spider 24, which is Spirit, and Spirit is strong against Force. So I'm hoping that the spiderlings will target this negative affinity champion instead of my nukers, right? So that's why I'm running Spider 24 right now, because Achak will be the one targeted, and that's why you see me putting a lot of HP banner, HP ring, and defense and all that. So it's on auto. Let's go slow. Turn meter control, and Amiga can do that also. Freeze, 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 freeze. 2 spiderlings were not frozen. Tyrant places the HP bomb, and watch what happens when the spiderlings take a turn. I don't have decreased defense out there. Turn meter boosts. Any spiderlings that takes a turn meter boost and heal. So you're seeing those 2 passives are happening. whenever the spiderlings take a turn, I get a turn meter boost and I get healed, the entire team. So this is what this dude is bringing to the entire team right now. He's the one carrying this entire team to victory because the spiderlings are all frozen. Of course, my Scyl the Drake did place her own stun also, else the spiderling will start taking numerous stuns. But hey, if you put this champion in a set that makes him decrease the cooldown of his skill, the A3 skill, he will place that freeze again before the spiderlings take a turn. So don't think he'll be able to do it alone. Freeze again. So before the spiderlings start bringing in half HP, he will freeze them again. Spider 24 is looking like as if it's Spider 20. I couldn't believe I could do it, but with Achak the Wendarin, this was too fast. So let me put it on 2x speed and let's go to the end of the run. You might be asking yourself, is the only spider you can use this champion? Unfortunately, this is where I found most use for him. Now, if you do find other teams like Doom Tower waves and all that, when you place your HP burn and they take a turn, you will still boost and do all those your heal and stuff. So even if you don't freeze them, because you know some of them their defense is higher than their attack, if you push the HP burn out there, he will still be boosting your turn meter and healing your entire team. So it doesn't always to be a freeze champion. He doesn't have to be taking the role of a freeze champion. That's what I'm saying. He can also serve other purposes as just a turn meter booster, as a healer for your team, even if he doesn't freeze the entire wave. That's why you can pair him with maybe Drexter, Blood Twins, so the Drexter takes the provoke from all those champions. Without freeze, you can also use provoke to control your champions, the enemies I mean. So that's where I use him the most. He took me to 24 where I didn't think I was ready for. I'm not going to run him through Dragon and other parts of the game, but you get the gist. This champion is best for Spider, but if you do not have better champions for those waves, for Dragon 24 maybe, or for Fire Knight, they are disturbing you, they are taking you down, he can bring that to the team. But I don't think he shines in these two, Dragon or Fire Knight, or even Ice Golem. I don't think this is where he shines. I think the main place he shines is Spiders, Den, and Doom Tower waves. So let me know where you're going to be using this champion, why you're even trying to build him in the first place. But I think Spider is where he shines. If you have alternate builds where you use him, I'd like to know. I've not seen him being used in the arena, but I'm assuming he'll be so annoying to deal with. We prefer to use provoke and stun in the arena. You don't really see freeze champions in the arena. That's just the truth. But for the entire speed, the amount of speed that he is, he's definitely going to feature in my 3v3 arena and be annoying in one of my teams for enemies that go against him. So you don't just build this champion to be awesome for the Dragon or for the Spider and you don't use them in other content. Of course, you pop them in there if their stats are good enough to handle that type of content. So you might be asking, what other sets can you use on this champion? Relentless sets, maybe. If you can have enough accuracy on it, it's one that I think might be useful on him. Just like Relentless is awesome for Scyl the Drake. Any champion that has the ability to take numerous turns to come back to the ability again. You know, Relentless will give him a chance to come back to his ability faster. So that's why I think. Reflex set is also awesome for him. If you are an endgame player who have farmed up enough reflex sets, that will also be an option for you. So that's my build on Achak. His total stats, if I didn't show it before, is 46k and 236 speed, crit rate and crit damage. I wasn't going for it, but enough accuracy. If this accuracy is even enough for the Doom Tower, maybe I have to put an accuracy lead in front. So not high resist because I'm not trying to resist anything, but you see in Spider 24 he takes the damage from the spiderling, so he can stay alive with this amount of defense that I built him with and HP. That's my build for Achak the Wendarin. This is a champion that I got and I appreciate him so much in my teams that he's never going to be in the vault anymore. He's going to be my #1 spider control champion and make Spider 24 or 25 so fast and easy for me, just like you see me do in the demonstration right there. I'm happy to be doing Spider 24 and I did get a lot of good stuff recently from the recently concluded Spider tournament or so. So this is what you get with Achak when you start farming those high levels of Spider. I'll do a gear cleanse soon and see what is good and what's not good. Thank you, Achak. Thank you guys for watching this video. Like and subscribe. Ask me any questions or any other related champions you want to see me do a champion guide on. Join the Discord if you have specific questions, or if you want to send me screenshots for me to recommend a team for your spider or other dungeons. I'll be glad to help you along with it. My name is Brix5D, and I'll see you guys in the next Raid Shadow Legends video. Good night.